Everybody, welcome to the Blue Stiley podcast. And my producer, Brendan, is in the other room right now. And he and I are going to do something a little bit different. We want to mix things up and basically come up with different ways to get everybody else involved, because a lot of people might know my story, but have not had the chance or the opportunity to hear me from the stage. And so, or something that we've mentioned on the podcast. So this is a great way to mix things up and involve a lot of people to have a conversation with me and with Brendan as well, because he's going to be a part of this. So Brendan, do you have anything to add real quick?
Yeah, I wanted to start a little icebreaker and make this a little bit more comfortable, because I know we're going to jump into some serious questions. And when I was starting today, I was like, man, I have known Blue for about 2.5 years now.
Yeah.
And I know that your name's Blue. I know your name's last name's Stiley. But then I was like, what's Blue's middle name? If his parents named him Blue, what crazy middle name did they give him? And then so that's my question. What's your middle name?
I don't have one.
You don't have a middle name?
I don't have one. No. My parents left it blank so that I could change my name if I wished to when I turned 18. And so I never did, because eventually I came to realize that I loved my name and it was powerful and it was a great name to go through life with. But I wanted to change it growing up. I wanted to be Rick forever.
You just wanted to give yourself a middle name so you have a first name?
Yeah, well, so I didn't want to go around with the initials BS all the time. So there you go.
That's where it started, because you text me, I don't have a picture on your contact. I just have BS.
That's it.
I was like, what's the middle name? Maybe there's an initial there that kind of makes it a word.
Nope. So yeah, my name is full Blue Stiley, and on legal documents NMI. So no middle initial.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's where I wanted to start. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. This is a good opportunity to have listeners and even past guests ask questions. Yeah. And we have a long list.
I'm so proud of everyone for bringing their A game with questions. And I just wanted everybody to know that one of the biggest gifts for me to be behind the mic where I am right now is that I get a front row seat into the lives of high performers and people who have done so much or succeeded at things. And what I've realized is that success means something different to everybody. But what I've come to realize is that it's really not that complicated, right? It isn't. And it's simple to achieve that. It's just you have to do it consistently over and over again. And I just have loved the conversations that we've had. And I just love when people, I'm just learning and I'm staying curious. And that's just been the greatest gift. And I feel blessed that I'm here right now doing that. So I'm ready to open this up, and let's take it away, mister.
Let's do it.
Okay.
So your first question comes from Jake from Spokane, Washington.
Spokane.
And he asks, if everything you built disappeared tomorrow, what would you do differently?
Ooh, that is a good question. Let's take a step back and let me reframe that really quick, because that's not only plausible, it's real, right? Because every one of us, the things that we build is going to disappear eventually, because we're going to be gone. And so this isn't something that I think about when the lights go out at night, but in reality, it is something that you have to come to terms with. And if I could rebuild things at a moment's notice, I would say that I'd have to trust myself more. And I would really lean into the relationships more often. I would stay curious. I would never stop learning. I mean, that is so important to me, is to continuously stay in the know and to open myself up to other people, become more empathetic with people and learn to be more empathetic, because your perception or your perspective can change on a whim. And it's so important to see things through other people's lenses, and just to not say emulate or assimilate to someone else, but to learn from them, because they're going to reveal these nuggets. And so if I would do that, I'd be more empathetic, and I would double down on those 3 to 5% moments, like how I can give more of myself or be better with my relationships and with learning and with being curious and with my work and my intention, and now as a parent. So I would rebuild those things and put that 3 to 5% more in everything that I did.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's a lot of good advice in just a very short little condensed idea. Like when you're talking about learning, like what's the one way you continue to learn? Like, do you have like a tool that you go to, or are you just like finding stuff on social media and you're like, I'm going to dive into that?
I would say that I surround myself around people who are better than me. And I've always done that since I was a kid. I've been lucky enough to be thrown into environments where I am surrounded by people that I can learn from.
Yeah.
And something that I learned when I was a young kid is that if you just ask someone for help, most people are willing to help you.
Yeah.
And so I love to connect with people and make real, genuine relationships with them, because if you ask them the right questions, they're going to give you those answers. So that's one thing. Another thing that I love to do is I used to think that YouTube was like you're just going to fall into this YouTube hole and go down the rabbit hole, but it's like you can find anything on YouTube.
You can, yeah.
And T.S. Solution had mentioned that. He's like, there's a great thing out there called Google, and everybody. I mean, you can learn so much now online, and every course with AI. So constantly learning and just staying curious. And there's never a moment that you should be bored. You should take every moment in this life and try to learn from either another person or from the experience that you're getting. And so constantly learning and being the shark and constantly swimming and never falling to the bottom and dying.
I love that.
Yeah.
Let's get on to question 2 from Chase from Seattle. Mm-hmm. What's a moment in your life where you almost quit but didn't?
Ooh, the moment that comes to my mind is when I failed my black belt test. I was 18 years old. I had studied for 10 years. It was something that I wanted more than anything in this world. And it meant so much to me, and it meant a lot to my father figure, who was my martial arts instructor. And when I tested, he failed me. And I had felt sadness and resentment, and I didn't know what I had done wrong. There was a moment that weekend that after I had failed that I wanted to quit and I wanted to throw in the towel. But I realized that the color of the belt wasn't what was most important. It was the fact that I was surrounded by people that had lifted me up, and it was the community that I had built, and I had fun. Even though I failed, I was still having so much fun. I wanted to be there more than anywhere else in the world. And so I didn't quit. I didn't throw in the towel. I went to class that Monday, and at the end of class, my instructor turned to me and he said, "Why are you kneeling down with the same brown belt?" And I was like, "Well, because this is where the brown belts sit." And he goes, "No, you belong up here." And he pulled an embroidered black belt with my name on it. And I realized then that the physical test wasn't the test. It was whether or not I had the ability to take real pain and failure and what I would do with it.
I want to ask a question off that, because I've heard this story a lot from you, and it's something that I've always questioned about the story, and nothing. I don't question like the validity of it or anything like that. I just you watched a lot of people get black belts, and they got black belts after they finished the test, correct?
Yeah.
And why did your sensei decide to test you in a very cruel way? Well, what was it about you that made him want to test you that way?
I think looking back now, because he's not around anymore, right? I can't ask him those questions, but I can look back and think that the real reason was because he saw a potential in me. And that's what a great mentor or a great coach or a great teacher or a great parent can do, or even a great boss or leader, is that they see a potential in you, and they know at the hardest moments in your life whether or not you're going to get back up.
Yeah.
And the moment I met that man, he told me that he was going to teach me how to punch and kick, but he was going to teach me how to fall first. And I didn't know what that meant, because I thought I was pretty good at it already. Like I was pretty clumsy. I was a stick with lips. And every time that I did it, it was usually followed by some explicit vocabulary word. But I was already good at that. But the reality is he was teaching me to make these falls over and over and over again, because we all get knocked down. We all fall down. And we're going to be bombarded by challenges and these no's and these setbacks. But it's like, do you have what it takes to get back up? And he knew that I would get back up, but maybe I wouldn't show it the same way. And the way that I decided to show it up was that I was going to wear that same brown belt for the next 6 months. And I don't look at it as a cruel thing. I
Right.
look at it now as like it was a true test of what my character was and whether or not did I really love karate? Did I really love the community? Did I really love learning constantly from other people? And the end result was, yeah, I did. And that was more important to me than the color of my belt.
Right.
And it was also another epiphany for me that and maybe this is it also, is that when you receive your Shodan or your black belt, that is the foundation of understanding something. It's not like you're a ninja, right?
Right.
Like that is the basic understanding of the fundamentals when you receive your black belt. Because from that moment on, then you start to learn even more, and then you learn to teach. And when you teach something and you can effectively teach them, that's when you're really learning. And so that was just the foundation. It was just like a starting point. And so I look back now and I'm like, he didn't really put me through the cruelness, but it was painful.
Yeah.
I was embarrassed as could be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, staying on this trend of facing hardships, Brittany from Liberty Lake asks, what was the hardest no you've ever faced?
Oh, I think we've all faced a lot. And sitting in the seat here, I've heard other people's stories that blow my mind. And so whatever my answer is going to be isn't going to be a hard no. But I remember a big gut punch for me when I was rejected once, and that was when I applied for my first home loan. And I got it, and I signed. Everything was ready to go for my home. I sent away for a refrigerator, washer, dryer. Everything was going to get delivered the day that I closed on the home. And 3 days before I closed, I was denied.
Oh.
And I had to pivot. And at 24 years old, I was scrambling. I didn't know what to do. And so I had to pivot quickly. And I figured it out. And I talked to the right people, and I had a realtor that walked me through it, and we just postponed the closing date a little bit. But man, I thought it was over. Like, I didn't know what to do. And that was like the hardest rejection I've ever heard. I was like, wait, why? I was approved for this loan. Why am I not getting it? And being self-employed was a hard thing to go through at that time. And I just stuck through it, and I figured it out.
Yeah. Yeah, you could easily just have just been like, well, I guess that wasn't meant to be. Like,
yeah, then I'd have to call the washer and dryer and the fridge place and say, sorry, I'm not going to do it. So yeah, it doesn't mean to stop. Right. And I think that's like my next book, Navigating No, is like one of the main themes that everybody talked about is like, it just don't stop, just keep going, figure it out. Don't dwell on it, accept it, but just keep moving forward, because it's those people that keep moving forward that are eventually going to find to their yes, right? That even through that rejection, you're going to get to that yes eventually.
Would you say that's your hardest no because of what was on the line for it?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think at my age, I thought like I had planned everything in my mind. I was going to have a gym out of my home. Everything was going to be based on that. I set up for success. Like I told all my clients, like I'm going to have a gym out of my home. I'm going to have all these things delivered. And it was a big thing, right? Like making your first home payment was going to be scary. Was this the right move? And so there was a lot of emotion attached to that. And up until then, the hardest thing that I had ever experienced was asking a girl out, right? It's like, oh my gosh. So that was hard, right? And I think it was just the emotions attached, my age, my lack of experience of being denied things. It was just a really hard hit. But I figured it out, and I didn't quit.
Well, I mean,
We're going to be right back after a word from our sponsor.
After a car accident, insurance companies will take every shot they can to leave you with nothing. But at Dubin Law, the game isn't over until you get the money you deserve. So call Dubin Law and add us to your roster today.
But I figured it out, and I didn't quit.
Well, I mean, people just want to know more and more about your rejections. So, Steve from Spokane asked.
Well, hold on.
Go ahead.
I want to tell this story because I love it. And go ask your question, and then maybe we'll come back to it really quick. Go ahead.
Well, Steve from Spokane asked,
Yeah.
what did rejection teach you that success never could?
The more rejections you get, the stronger you will become, as long as you don't dwell on it and as long as you decide to get yourself back up every single time. Because eventually, when you get up, you are going to win. and you're not going to, that rejection is going to turn into a success. And so it's like those micro losses that we all experience, they just start adding up to make us stronger. It's just like lifting weights. It's like you intentionally go in to fail. You intend to put pressure on your muscles. And as a result of doing that consistently, time after time, the boring, mundane things, you become stronger, you become bigger, your arms get bigger, you can lift more weight.
Right.
And it's like staying consistent and always, let's say, living through that suck, I guess, or that pain is what's going to make you stronger in the end. So rejection is just basically preparation for you to come out stronger in the end.
When you went to UW, you were rejected from business school how many times?
I was rejected twice.
Yeah.
And I didn't get in. And every time that I was rejected, it kind of narrowed my options down. Every single time I was like, like I have to choose a degree. So what am I going to do? And I didn't want to prolong that even further. Like, let's get rejected 3 times. Let's get rejected 4 times because would I be wasting money? Would I be having a degree without actually having a degree? And I was at let's call it a turning point where I was like, I had to make a decision. And instead of like trying to apply again a 3rd time, another year down and taking all those business classes and spending that money with the hopes of getting a degree, I just picked up my bag and I went in and I made an appointment with the dean and I walked in and I was like, listen, I have consistently shown up. I have made the grades. I've made your list every single quarter. I've done the work. I've done all of these extracurricular things. And I know that if you allow me this opportunity, I am going to make something of that.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and he was like, you know what, Blue? I have 2 slots that I'm allotted that I can give. And I'm going to give you one because you did not quit. And you did what most people won't do. And you came in and you approached me and you asked. And you also proved your point, right? It wasn't like I just walked in and I was like, hey, can I get into the business school? It's like I had to prove my point,
right?
I had to be prepared and I had to argue my case, and I did successfully. And so as a result, I got into business school, but then that also set me up for so much success because that got me into the Japanese program. And then it got me into going to a school internationally and then get a degree in international economics. So that was the stepping stone. That one rejection just completely catapulted my life. And we had a guest on, Anna Mazzeo, and she talked about like it's those challenges, those rejections, those failures that really can, if you use them as a trampoline, can catapult your life.
Yeah.
And that is exactly, being rejected from the business school at UW was one of those moments. And I'm so glad that I had the courage to go ask.
Yeah.
And I would say a lot of people don't have that. They're too afraid to ask, but don't be. If you're willing to put yourself out there and take that chance, the worst thing they can say is no.
Right. It is one of those things that I think people, they get in their mind, they get this letter of rejection and then they're like, that's it. That's the end all be all. But what they don't realize, what they should realize is that there's a human behind that rejection. And maybe all it is just like talking to that person. And that's a very, more people should do that when they get rejected, is go and ask a question why and like show why you deserve what you were rejected by.
Well, I applied for a speaking gig, and one of the things that I do for fun is for the expos, for the Comic-Cons.
Yeah.
And I asked the event planner, like, can I ask why I didn't get accepted? And he was like, no one has ever asked me that question. And I was like, well, because I want to know. I want to grow. Like, obviously something I did didn't matter or it wasn't relevant. And I didn't want to take it personally, right? Maybe he could say, like, you just suck, right?
Right.
But I wanted to know. And so I asked, and he was like, most of our content is all Star Wars. And so if I have you come in and talk about Star Wars too, it's that much more. And it's like, there's only so many slots. I was like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I didn't take it personally, but I wanted to know. And so what did I do? I applied again, and then I got it the next time, right? So it was like being able to ask is only going to make you better.
Yeah.
And then taking that, not taking it personally.
Yeah.
Do what you can do, take what's in your control and utilize it.
Earlier when I said a lot of people are asking questions about rejection, something triggered and you were going to say something. What were you going to say?
Well, okay. So this is funny, and I know that we have a question about confidence and why I'm confident later, but this is a micro explanation, and this is a deep dive into something that had happened to me early on, and it was when I was about 14 years old, and a big brother of mine was like, he was someone that I wanted to look like and be like, and he was like a god to me. Like, I so looked up to him. And he took me to a Wild Waves over here in Spokane. I guess it was in Coeur d'Alene at the time. It was like Wild Waters or something.
Yeah.
And I was 14, and he saw me looking at some girl, and he was like, "You should ask that girl out." And I was like, "No way." And he goes, "If you don't, I'm going to leave you here." And I'm 14. I don't have a car,
Right.
and this man would have done that. Okay, he would have done that. That's the power that he had over me, and I was terrified. I'd never gone up and talked to a girl or asked her for a number. And so I reluctantly went up all scared and nervous and scared. And I walk up and I go, "Hey, can I have your number?" And she gave it to me.
Oh, wow.
And I remember the feeling walking away from her with this number in my hand, and I was shaking, but I was so excited, Brendan. I was so excited. I sat down at this picnic table outside, and my buddy was sitting across from me. He's like, "Hey, good job, man." And I was just like so happy. I was like shaking. And then right then this woman came over, grabbed the number out of my hand, and she said, my niece isn't going to give her number to any boy," and walked away. And I started crying, literally crying. I was like, "Ooh," like that. And my buddy thought that was so funny. But it was being thrown into an environment that I was uncomfortable with. And that was like my first rejection, that I realized like the worst thing that can happen is someone tells you no, or they steal their number back from me, right? But I was told yes. So that was like a big moment in my life where I realized like, man, the worst thing somebody can do is say no. And so that would set me up for success of not being afraid to go ask and to ask for help, or, ask for that promotion or that job.
Mm-hmm. Well, sometimes the rejection happens and it does, like, you get rejected and you can't get what you want. And like Heather from Los Angeles asks, how do you keep going when nothing seems to be working? And I imagine there's been times in your life where you face that, where everything just seems against you. But how do you keep going?
Twofold. One, I have a confidence team around me, like a support system of cheerleaders. I am married to the most amazing woman, and she supports everything that I do. And so she's the one who's always pushing me to keep going. If it's a goal that I want to achieve, I know eventually I'm going to achieve it. And just to have a group of people around me that believe in me and know my value and challenge me. And I don't mean like naysayers and like horrible critical people, but it's like I just have a group of people, then I call it the confidence team around me that support me. And then the other thing is, I have a self-talk where I always remind myself that I am not alone. There is someone else who has gone through whatever problem or setback or challenge that I want to get through. And if they could do it, I can do it too. And I think that's the one of the greatest values of the podcast, is that we hear all of these stories from people where like, man, if they did it, I can do it too. And it just reminds us that we're not alone. And so giving that little bit of inspiration, that little reminder that it sucks and it hurts and it's painful, but man, if you just keep going, eventually you're going to do it. And then when you have a group of people that are helping you alongside, like cheering you on, think of a fun thing that I love is that, like, I'm not a runner, my wife is, but my daughter is a great runner. And when she runs like a 5K or something like that, or cross country, and there's all these people clapping for her, and the rush that she gets to run that little bit more, that 3 to 5% more at the very end or throughout it, it just gives you that boost. I mentally picture those people in my mind every single day. When I'm feeling down or like, how am I going to get through this? I just remind myself, like, I have that person And sometimes it's me saying, Blue, you got this, move, right? Sometimes it's my wife. Sometimes it's you, Brennan. Sometimes it's these little notes or these text messages. Or this is a fun thing, is that every time that we get something on a post or a comment on YouTube or for Spotify, and they're like, that's exactly what I wanted to hear today, and I needed to hear that. Man, that boosts me to say, okay, we can keep going, right? Because it's hard. Having a podcast is hard. It takes a lot of work. I'm not Joe Rogan, right? So like, how do you become that Joe Rogan? How do you become that Mel Robbins? Well, you got to keep moving. And so having those people behind you pushing you is a huge thing. And remembering you're not alone.
Yeah, that's such an important thing to remember. On the running side of the things, where you're talking about that, and you were talking about your daughter, I went to Kyoto last month to run a marathon, and I was not ready to run a marathon. But when you mentioned the people like Kyoto just had all of these people just surrounding the course the entire time I was running the whole 42 kilometers. And it really does. It really makes you want to keep going, even when you want to just stop. And thinking like, and just trying to, when you're in that space, envision all the people that are around you that you can reach out to or that will cheerlead you is very, very, very important.
And it doesn't have to be physical, right?
No,
and that's the same thing. Like, I am not a runner. I am not. I would be motivated if somebody was like rawing me on, but when I'm dying, I'm like, oh, this is awful, right? Like, running's not my thing. But I don't have to. I can mentally picture someone pushing me through. Bust out one more chapter for your next book before you get on stage. Like, what people ask me that all the time. Like, what do you do to prep right before you go on stage? And it's like, I pump myself up. Well, a lot of people listen to music. A lot of people do it. I'll do a jumping jack, and I just get that heart rate up and that energy level up, because that is what inspires me to go. And sometimes it's just like having my daughter in the back of my mind say, Dad, you got this.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just a mental belief.
Yeah. Kind of staying on this same path, JD from Spokane asks, what's the difference between people who quit and people who don't?
Ooh. Okay. So that answer is that question is great. And the reason is because really the only way that you can fail at anything is either you quit or you die. And it's that simple. And so if you know that if you just don't quit, but you keep going, that eventually you're going to achieve it, you just don't stop. And so I think a lot of the people that I've had the opportunity to interview, and myself and all of the Olympic athletes I've worked with, and special ops guys and SEAL, it's like these people, they just don't stop. They consistently do the mundane, the painful things. And if you do it consistently, time and time again, with true intent and purpose, you are going to make it through that. And I think that if you just don't stop and you adjust and you pivot, or you find a way, because there is a way to achieving what you want to achieve. And I think that's the big difference, is that people don't quit. That's the difference, is that when they get knocked down, they decide to get back up. And if you get back up, maybe it'll take you a lot of times to get back up, but eventually you are going to win. And I think that kind of ties into like the whole idea behind my book too. And that is that it's that there's more than one way of doing something. There's no right way. There's not only one way to do it. And in math and science, it's called equifinality, which basically means that there's multiple, if not infinite, ways of achieving a certain result or goal or destination. And it's like, if you know that, then when you get up, try a different route. Get up and go a different way. Go through it, crash through it, jump over it, have somebody help you through it. Like, you will find your way. The people that do not quit are the ones that try to find a key that will unlock the door in front of them that they haven't figured out how to open yet.
Yeah.
And they just never stop. That is the difference between someone who quits and someone who eventually makes it. And that's something that I've tried to apply my entire life, is like, figure it out, find a way. And there was the Lone Survivor. I remember there was a line at the very beginning that says, "Find a way to win." Right? There is a way. It might cost more, it might hurt a lot more, but there is a way. Anything that you can do, just don't stop.
No, that's the sum before. There's so many different ways to the number 4, huh? Yeah. No, I think about that quite often when I'm when I feel like I want to quit. It's just like, this might not be the way to get there, but there's going to be another way.
Well, and there is no straight route to being an entrepreneur, for example, right? Like you could interview 100 entrepreneurs and for the same thing. They all want to start a company that does X, right? Well, all 100 of them might do something totally different, but they all get to X. Some of them get there faster. Some of them make more. Some of them have a more scenic route, but it's like there is a way.
Yeah.
And so as long as you don't stop and you don't quit, then eventually you will get to it.
And this is so similar to what we were just talking about, but it really expands on that. Is Katie from Seattle asks, why do some people grow from adversity while others break?
I would say that a lot of people, you don't bounce back. I think another thing to mention off of that question, and that I really want people to hear and to hit home, is that resilience is coming back. And this is what I want to point out, is that you're coming back, but you're not coming back the same. And it's your advantage now. And how do you leverage that difference? Because you are stronger. You have more skills. You have more to offer. And so because you've learned something, and that's what makes you grow and become better, more valuable to your boss, more valuable to your clients. And so it's taking that and actually moving yourself forward.
So Olivia from Boise asks, how have you managed to stay confident throughout your life? And have you been confident your whole life?
No, because I just gave the explanation,
right,
like where I had to go and ask this girl, right? You're not born with confidence. It is a skill that you can learn, and it adds to you. Like the more challenges, the more failures, the more rejections that you receive, the more confident you become. It is built just like a muscle. And if you consistently apply it and work at it time and time again, you continue to show up again and again, especially when it hurts and when it's hard. That confidence comes from the actions that you take and all of those failures and rejections that you've received. So it's just going through life and realizing, like, what's the worst thing that can happen? And if I know that the worst thing that can happen is I'm told no, or I don't get what I want, or I don't get that home loan, then it's okay. But you start to set yourself up with these little confidence anchors throughout your life, like these little wins. And as you increase those wins, those anchors, it's easier for you to put yourself out there. And the more you do it, the more experience, the more repetitions you get at it, really, it's just about moving forward and staying consistently challenging yourself to continue to move those anchors out, because you can always fall back on them.
So this question is from Matt Hemley, your friend. He wants to know, what is your superpower hack for confidence?
Oh, I love that. I would say that, and not. And this sounds funny, but when people meet me, they're like, "Oh, he's magnetic, and maybe he has this ego, or he looks like a high school quarterback who has it all." And this, I did not look like this when I was a kid. I was an ugly stick with lips, with zits, and I had a mullet, and I thought camouflage was really cool. So no, I would say that it's not about an ego or something like that. And my optimism shines all the time, and I just try to find joy in everything. And if I can find joy in something, no matter what it is, that's when my confidence kind of shines. Yeah. And let's call it an aura of some kind, but it's like I'm bleeding happiness and joy in any moment, even when it sucks. Like, I'm like, how can I find happiness or joy out of this? What can I learn in this situation? And so my superpower of being confident is just like, I look at every moment. I try to find a silver lining in every moment or time that I can learn, I can grow, I can become better. And that is why I'm confident every single day, because I just try to go through life happy and with as much joy as I can.
Yeah, no, that's powerful. I feel like I'm the most confident too when I have a ton of joy in my life, and I think of my kids and my wife, and like how successful those things have been. And when I think of that gives me joy, and which in turn gives me confidence. So I definitely agree with that. Like, that is
Well, and it's me finding that joy in the moments that even suck and putting that smile on, because when we smile, we automatically let those endorphins on. It's pretty
Right.
funny. It's pretty hard to be mad when you pretend to smile even, right? And so I show up every single day trying to find that joy or that happiness, and I know I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure out how to make the moment, even if it's bad, into a good moment, because it's choosing energy even in the hard moments to have that uplift. And if I don't want to be the Eeyore, I don't want to be like the vampire that drains other people's energy. I want to give that energy off. And so why not bring it every day? And it just fills my reward bucket. And so that's how I go through life, is with that confidence of that, just that high energy and being that optimist.
Yeah, go take that 60-second smile challenge that Stefano taught us.
Yeah.
Go do that in the mirror.
I'm doing it now.
Well, moving on to question 10, and is a very deep question because I don't know how to even deal with this, is how do you handle imposter syndrome?
I think we all have that little voice in our head that tells us that we're not good enough because we are our own worst enemy. I really do believe that. We're our greatest asset, but we're also our own worst enemy. And in the times that I question myself, I have to remember that if I'm better than average, I'm probably good enough to do whatever it is that I need to do. And so let's take, for example, public speaking. A lot of people are afraid to get on stage because they might feel like they're not valuable enough, or they don't have a message that's going to be worthy, or they're not going to be good enough. And it's like, if you're average, if you know more than the average person, then you have the authority to get up there and speak. And so it's believing in yourself that you at least are valuable enough to understand something. That really has always helped me get through that. We all have those moments in our life where we self-talk ourselves and we're our own worst enemy. Just don't listen to it. Push through it and surround yourself around people who do believe in you and can remind you of the value that you have. And then understanding that it means that you care about yourself, right? It really does. It means that you're in the right room, because I want to put myself in a room where I do feel that challenge, where I do feel uncomfortable. Because if you're always comfortable, you're not growing. Right. And I spoke about this the other day on stage, and this lady came up and she goes, you hit it right on the head. Like, being in a room of people who are smarter than you is the best way for you to grow.
I used to deal with major imposter syndrome, and it was almost, it led me to going to therapy and then finding out that I had really bad ADD, and that's why my imposter syndrome started. But it was also because I hated my job that I previously had. I was doing Google AdWords and like Facebook ads, and and I always felt like I don't know what I'm doing. And the thing was, like, I did know what I was doing, but I was just like, I wasn't the expert at it. There were so many people that knew it better than me, but what I did know was podcasting. And that's when I decided, like, I'm going to leave my easy marketing job to go do something that I know that I'm very good at. And once I left that place and started doing podcasting, my imposter syndrome just, I don't feel like I have it anymore. There's moments where I still have it sometimes, but like I feel it a little bit, like, oh, there's somebody here that can podcast better than me, or can produce a show better than me. But like, I still know I know how to do it on an expert level. And I think that was like the biggest learning moment for me, was just like doing something that I actually cared about. And then you said it right there. It's like do something that you care, and that's something something you can grow at. Like, I just never felt like I was ever going to grow at doing Google ads. So I used to deal with imposter syndrome. Was just one of those things that like everyone deals with, and it is a very hard thing to like overcome if you are feeling it.
Well, yeah, and you just can't listen to that voice. You have to push it out, and you have to have, let's call it a trigger, right? And so what is going to get you to move past that and believe in yourself? Is that a confidence team? Is that you having a self mantra that you tell yourself, or is that being able to just say, okay, the worst thing that's going to happen is I'm going to fail, so let's just keep moving through it. But it's finding something that it's okay to suck at something. Because if you suck, it means you're not good at it yet. Like, think about this. Think about anything that you've ever not known how to do, you're going to suck at it.
Yeah.
Right? And so you're going to tell yourself, oh, I'm horrible at this. So is that going to keep you from going forward and doing it? No. You can't let that happen. You have to understand that you are going to have to learn how to do something in order to become better at it. And you have to take that chance, because if you don't, you're not growing.
Yeah.
You're not getting better. And so if you listen to that imposter syndrome, if you listen to yourself, you're never going to grow. You're never going to reach your potential. You're never going to become better. You're never going to get that 3 to 5% better if you're not challenging yourself. And so if you're in a room that you're not challenged, or you're not being challenged by other people, then you need to reevaluate those rooms. And you can't listen to that voice.
Yeah.
You've got to go after what it is that you believe that you have value in. And the more repetitions, the more experience, and the more skills that you achieve, the greater you're going to believe in yourself. So believe in yourself. Let go of that little shadow on your shoulder and say, no, I've got this. What is my personal mantra?
Well, our friend Tangi, is it Tangi Johnson?
Yeah.
Who was just an amazing guest on here. She asks, where does your optimism and positivity come from?
I've never been a sad panda since getting beat up all the time as a kid. And I was like, man, that's the worst. When you get picked on and bullied and beat up and you have no friends and you don't, like, people don't care about you or make you feel like you matter, like, that sucks. And that feeling of like sadness and that was the turning point. And then I realized, like, oh, there's so much more to life. Like, and how do I achieve that? And it is about being genuinely content. I have everything that I need. Obviously, I have a lot of things that I would want, right? Like, I would love for this to be a bigger podcast. I would love this. I would love to be able to be a New York Times bestselling author or whatever. Of course, those are things that I want, but I have everything that I need. I have a beautiful family. I have a wife that loves me. I have friends. I have a nice home that I have warm food and eggs that cost more, all those things, right? And I have everything that I need, and so I'm content. And as a result of being content, my happy bucket is completely filled. And I've found things that I'm passionate about, and I've gone after the things that I'm passionate about. And so if you can find something that you're passionate about, then you are going to be optimistic with it, because I know that I'm going to achieve whatever goal that I want to achieve, and I'm going to have a smile on my face the entire time, even when it hurts. And Tangi is someone, I love that she asked this question, because women look at her, men look at her, and they're like, I wish I could look like her. I wish that I was a personality like her. I wish that I had what she had. And knowing where you start and what you've become really makes me appreciate where I am, and that fills my contentment bucket, because people would switch their lives with me immediately. So why am I not happy? And I think, that happiness leads to the success, and it's that way. Because that's something I think a lot of people get wrong, is that they think that success is when you get that nice home or that new job or that beautiful wife or husband, or you have this great life. It's like happiness is what it starts with. And that does not mean that you're going to be happy, right? Success does not equate to happiness. Happiness equates to success. And that is something that I did not know until a few years back. Like, I just thought that, if I have this, then I'm going to be happy. And that's not the way it is. I'm happy now, and my optimism and my positivity shines and it bleeds, maybe too much, too often. And as a result, everything that I touch becomes successful to me, because it is successful, because the definition of success to me is having the people around me that I care about, and accomplish the things that I want to accomplish, reaching for the goals and constantly growing. And so I'm confident and I'm optimistic and I'm happy, because I know I have this feeling of joy behind me that is taking me to that next level.
Oh, that's powerful. I could take some of that advice.
But let's dive into you really quick. I mean, in all seriousness, like you have a career now where you put podcasts on. You're an entrepreneur. You've had to take chances. You've had to like put yourself out there. You have to get your own podcast studio. You didn't know if people would come to you. You didn't know if you would provide enough value that people would pay you for that.
Right.
And so here you are, but now you are successful at it, and you are having all these successful podcasts, mine included, right?
Right.
And so it's like you're providing this value to people, so many people, and you're creating real and genuine friendships with the people that you work with. And I think that you would probably do this for free.
Oh, absolutely.
He did. We'll edit that out. But in all seriousness, if I would speak, you do the things that you're passionate about. And when you're passionate about something and you find something that you love that's not really work, because work to me isn't work, it's fun and it's exciting, and I am optimistic and I am positive about it because it is something that I enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And when people say like, oh, if you could do something, what would you do for free if money didn't matter? Well, that is it.
Yeah.
And that can change, right? It can change. Like I've changed t-shirts over and over and over, but whatever t-shirt I'm wearing, I'm passionate about it. I'm finding joy out of it. And you are doing that too. You're changing lives. You're making me successful. You're changing the trajectory in my life. So you're making a difference in this world. And I think that is it too, is that you're positive now because you see the value that you bring and that you're changing somebody else's life. And I would want other entrepreneurs to hear that too. Like your value and your skill set, you do provide something. You have knowledge and experience and stories that can change people's lives. And so you don't know if you don't try.
Yeah.
And if you're stuck in this horrible job that you hate, take the chance and go out there and actually make a difference in this world. And I think that's what you've done. And I think like you are in such a better place now, and it's the relationships that you've built, and it's the smile that you have behind the window right now. And it's like you're just making a difference, and you are changing trajectories of lives. And I think that has made you see success as like, oh, if I'm happy, I am going to be successful.
Right. Yeah. No, it's true. I just wish I could be more happy with in my personal life. I feel like I'm always happy here. It's just I sometimes can be. I get home and you get comfortable around the people that you're always around. And I could use me and Abby always talk about this. Like when we are at work, we're always our best selves. And I feel like that's a lot of people. We're always our best self when we're public facing. And so the person that people see Brennan when he's at podcasting is usually his best self. But when I go home, it's been a long day. I've been talking a lot. I've been I've been working, and I get home and I can be a little bit negative or not always present for my children, or maybe quick to like
yell,
and so it's, and I'm sure you deal with that, but I'm sure but I haven't been around you that much parenting, but like, it is one of those things that like, how can I take this Brennan and always be this Brennan at work? And it's something I always, it's what I go to therapy for.
Well, and no one's perfect,
right?
No one is perfect, and no one has a limitless candle that you could burn from both ends all the time, right? On full octane, right? And so it is that really ties into my 3 to 5% edge, right? Because it is about going above and beyond with not only at work with your relationships, but it's with your work, with your studying, with your staying curious and growing as an individual when people don't know or people aren't watching, right? And so how are you acting when you don't think people are watching? Are you always putting intent and purpose behind what you're doing? Do you have more fuel in your tank? And so if you have more fuel in your tank, then why aren't you giving that off? Because every day you should want to have nothing left in your tank. Yeah. Right? And so when you get home and you see, and by the way, this is a big shout out to you as a dad, because I know you are a dad, and I don't want our audience to think that you're like, oh, you are a great dad, and your kids love and adore you, and Abby loves you too, your beautiful wife. So it's like you are a good dad, but we all our candles are burning at the end. But like every day when you're feeling low on that fuel, you might still have a little bit left. Yeah. Is it that 3 to 5% more? perfect if it is. But then there's the other thing. When you go home and you're tired and you're exhausted, those little children are your battery chargers.
Yeah.
They're not your drainers. So utilize that and leverage that to get more out of them. It's like that extra little boost. Like we went to the Spokane Chiefs the other day, and when they go into the penalty box and then there's like down to 3 seconds, and all of a sudden they come out and they boop, 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 like Mario Brothers. It's like boop, 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 and level up, right? Like when you go home, find something that gives you that extra boost of energy that can get you through it, right?
Yeah.
But if you're coming home and if you're going to bed every single night, if you're going to bed every single night and you have nothing left to give, that's a great day.
Mm-hmm.
That is a great day, whether it's with your work or anything like that. And it's like giving that 3 to 5% edge in everything that you do consistently, time and time again, is what's going to make the difference.
That was perfect, because that was a question we got from a lot of people, is like, what is the 3 to 5% edge, and why does it matter? And it's true. I need to go get like a 5% that tattooed on me so I can just look at it.
Did you just totally throw out "Let Them" by Mel Robbins? I love that everybody got. Okay, so here's a little thing. I'd love everybody to have a 3 to 5% edge tattoo. Let's throw that out for Mel Robbins. No, it is, and it's funny because a lot of speakers talk about. James Clear talks about atomic habits, about giving that 1 to 3% more all the time, and that is a personal development. And the 3 to 5% edge is showing up every day consistently and helping other people. Right? It is about going above and beyond and showing your gratefulness and your thankfulness to, or your appreciation to, other people. What can you do every single day to go a little bit above and beyond, to make somebody else's experience magical, to make somebody feel like $1 million?
Yeah.
And then what can you do every single day to go 3 to 5% more to leverage your uniqueness? Because we already tapped into that. Like, none of us are going to be the same. And so how do you utilize, or how do you leverage your differences? Because it's our differences that make us so special. And so if you can find your special superpower, and if that is confidence with me, or if it's like positivity, and how do I exponentially grow that 10 times? Well, you have to find that. You have to leverage that every single time. And so if you consistently do that, 3 to 5% more every single day, going above and beyond, eventually you're going to be that positive magnetic person that shifts rooms. You make real and genuine relationships with the people that you're surrounding yourself with, and then with your teams and your organization. But then you're changing not only your own trajectory in your life in a positive way, but you're also doing it to other people as well. And all it takes is that simple reminder of going that 3 to 5% more in everything that you do.
Yeah. Well, that kind of also goes into like, what does find your table really mean? Because that's about surrounding yourself with the people you want to be around, right?
Well,
and I'm probably butchering that.
No, well, find your table is like, it's metaphorically, it's not literally, right? Like, but it can be literal, because I can sit around a table, but it's anytime that you can put yourself across from somebody and get to know them on a deeper level. Like, really asking the right questions and actively listening to them, because it is way different than just to say hi to people and have a Rolodex of names, right? Versus like getting to know your team member, getting to know your boss, getting to know your employees, getting to know your customer, what their pain points are. When I worked for Starbucks, it was always like, what causes your heartburn, right? Like, well, if you don't ask the right question, your customer, your member, your client isn't going to tell you. And so being able to sit down with someone on an eye-to-eye level and see life through their eyes, through their lenses, is the greatest way, because they're going to open up. It's the way that you unravel that layer of that onion to get to know what makes them move mountains for you, what can get them to do things that they don't believe that they can do, things that they don't think that they can do. And so it's what really gets people to do things at scale. But you have to be able to sit across from someone and level up with them and listen. I always think of Mr. Rogers, because Mr. Rogers was always able to sit across like a child, and he would sit across a child and he would focus on the kid. And it was all about the child, being present with the child. And it's all about them, right? And so if you can do that with someone else, that is when you see life through their eyes, and you get to understand what makes them tick. And if you know that, you know what their love language is, you know what their currency is, that's when the magic can happen, because that's when you create a real and genuine relationship with someone, because you can begin to respect each other.
Yeah.
You can wish to emulate them. You can love each other. You can admire each other, and you can trust each other. And then you can be empathetic with each other.
Find Your Table is your keynote, correct?
It is, yeah.
And it's not, is it in Semaphore or is it?
I do talk about Find Your Table in the Semaphore, and it is just, for me personally, my table was a dojo. It was a community that I grew up in. It was basically being around a group of people that got to know me deeply, right? And a great mentor, a mentor-mentee relationship, is someone who can get to know you on a deeper level, who will take those 2 minutes every day or once a week to actually ask the right questions, listen to you, and then give a perspective or just be that ear for you.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough as a kid to be surrounded by people in my table where I was able to ask these questions, share my problems, share my anxieties, share my challenges, and people would just bombard me with takeaways and nuggets and things that I could begin to apply.
The mentor-mentee relationship is something that like is said a lot in, especially like in the business world, and especially if you like go see someone do public speaking, and it's, I think it's a practice that like a lot of adults hear and then they don't put into practice. Like I, for one, have heard, I used to have a mentor and I don't anymore, but it is something that I think a lot of adults take for granted, and like it is a real way to like get someone in your corner to like really help you level up yourself personally, professionally, in so many different ways. How do you tell adults, like especially like in their 40s, that are trying to find a mentor, like where to start?
Well, I come from like a Japanese background because I was introduced to martial arts, and they believe so highly in the mentor-mentee relationship, right? The apprentice and the Padawan and the Sith Lord, right? And it's a senpai-kohai relationship with the sensei. And so it is so important. And so it was instilled with me as a young age, and I saw the power of that mentor. So it was very easy for me to be able to ask those questions.
Right.
But it is a simple reminder how easy it is. It's not easy. It is very simple to connect with somebody else, to find a mentor. And you can be a mentor and anyone else can be a mentor, because if the way that you look at other people, every single person in this world, no matter who you are, has some story, some knowledge or experience that you can learn from. And so every moment in time is a time that you can ask for help. You can learn something from someone else. So anyone can be your mentor, even if it's the barista or the Uber driver.
Right.
It doesn't have to be like the CEO that you take to coffee.
Right.
It does not have to be that person. It has to be someone that you're willing to strike up a conversation with and value their time. This is a big heads up. If anyone wants to find a mentor and you ask for someone's time, their time is probably their most valuable commodity. Offer to take them to coffee, right? Like, and pay for their coffee. That's just a hint to you young whippersnappers. But it's like, value their time. And so my advice would be that find people who, especially if it's a mentor that you really want to do something with, like for example, start a business. Find someone who is maybe a couple steps above on the ladder than you are, right? And then reach out and ask them. Simply ask them, how did you get to where you are, right? Because there's a difference between asking someone who's at the very, very top, right? I mention Matt Dubin with Dubin Law all the time, and he's one of our sponsors. And one thing that I've always taken from watching his career rise and his journey is that he would always attach himself not only to be like the best law firm and try to reach out to that person, but he would find people who are just a few steps ahead of him because they've already gone through what he's going through right now. And that's the power of a mastermind group. That's the power of having a mentor group. And ask the right questions because they've just gone through that. Those are some of your most powerful mentors, not the person up here. So I could ask Mel Robbins, like, how did you achieve what you did? But the answers that she's going to give me aren't going to relate to me and maybe be as valuable as someone who is just a few steps ahead of me on that personal journey of being a keynote speaker or an author or a podcast host. So finding the people that are ahead of you just a little bit and not being afraid to ask them for the help. And then they're usually willing because they've gone through it with you, right? So that would be my advice with that.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I definitely need to take that advice. So our next question comes from our previous guest, Tristan, which was, if you haven't listened to Tristan's story and listened to the episode yet, please go and do that after you listen to this.
Very powerful. And my wife, Heidi, listened to it through its entirety. And she finally said this morning, she was like, I don't know if I could do what she did.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I could either. That was true power to come back from something. Yeah. So many things that were traumatic. And so, man, I just look up to her so much. So Yes, I love this question. She asked, like, what is the biggest transformation I have heard about from someone reading The Sum of Four? And I would say that I get messages all the time that say, I had no idea that I had that kind of relationship with my dad. I had no idea that this was a simple reminder for me to be a better dad, to be a better husband, to be a better boss. And so when people reach out to me and they say, I had no idea how simple it was to give that 3 to 5% more, that makes my day, because it's so simple to apply the lessons in the book. And because it's not rocket science. It really isn't. We all know how to do it, right? We all know how to make our lives better, but we make up excuses and we're too scared to take chances, and we become that deer in the headlights. But it's like, if you consistently move forward and you're just reminded how simple it is to continue moving forward, to continue giving that 3 to 5% more, eventually you're going to reach it. And so that, when people reach out and they say, if you could do it, I can do it. That's a great one. I love when people say, I went back and I reread your book from the previous year and it meant something new to me. That's pretty powerful too.
Yeah.
And that's also something from the stage. Like, one of my greatest moments is the first time I made someone cry from stage. And then she came up to me afterwards. She said, I had no idea that my mom made that much of a difference in my life, and how important it is for me to reach out to her and remind her the difference and the impact that she made in my life, because she hadn't spoken to her for years. And she did. And then she reached out to me and said, we're consistently meeting again and we're back on great terms. And it's like, man, that's awesome.
That's cool.
Right? And it's just, it's that simple to do those things, but we have to be reminded of it. And so the book means something different at different stages of lives. But it's kind of, I would almost say that it's timeless, because no matter what time in your life, it will mean something different. And I love going back and reading it. I read it to my daughter. And it's a constant reminder, an anchor to me to remember where I came from, and that if I have to apply the things that I talk about from stage too, because we always have to be reminded of those things, right? And so sometimes my confidence team isn't going to remind me. Sometimes I'm not going to remind myself. But man, when I open up the book and I'm like, oh, this is going to be more simple than I thought. I can do this. If I did it through this, then I got it. So that's one of the greatest things that I've gotten replies back, is that when somebody hears that it was simple to apply to my life and it actually changed my life and it changed my behavior, it transformed me. That.
We've talked a lot about your wife, Heidi, and she had a question. Who? Heidi. And she asked, how should people adapt through life stages?
Something that I was told by a friend of mine a long time ago was that reach out to someone 10 years ahead of you and ask them what they felt at the age 10 years prior. And when you can consistently do that, you realize, like, every single stage of our life is going to be different.
Yeah.
And maybe it's 3 years, maybe it's a 10-year, every decade or something like that. But we are going to go through changes, and life is going to knock you down. And you have to be able to adapt through those changes. You're going to come out stronger because my whole goal is to be better tomorrow than I am today. And so as long as I've learned something, I've made a difference in somebody's life, I've been a great dad, I've been a great husband, and my tank is empty at the end of the day, that's a great day.
Yeah.
And that's a great year. That's a great decade. But I want to be better tomorrow than I am today.
Yeah.
And no matter what, you're going to have to learn to adapt that and to pivot and keep that mindset.
Yeah. One of my biggest things I say to myself in business and in life is, and I don't really mean this in the sense that I'm going to say it, but it's like adapt or die. I mean, you really have to be adaptable. Like when I was younger, I thought being older was going to be the best, like being an adult and having all these things. And I wouldn't say that life is harder now. It's just more complicated because there's so many different things.
Well, and you have so much responsibility.
Yeah.
Right. And so think about as a kid, you have no responsibilities. You get to come home and you get to play with your Star Wars guys and your action figures, and it's like the coolest ever. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I got to get into college, and oh, I got to get a job, and and it's like this responsibility. Then you become a parent, and then you got to buy a house, then you got to make a house. You have so much more. Every decade, every challenge, a new shirt that you're going to wear, you're going to come with new challenges. But that's what makes the journey fun. And challenging yourself every single day and finding the joy and the happiness out of that challenge. That's the secret, with a smile on your face.
Well, speaking of challenges, this question must have came up because of the question I asked on our little promo to do this Q&A. But John asks, what did your knee injuries teach you?
The first, I broke my femur in a judo, like we were just in class, and I broke my femur. And at that point, I was probably 15 years old, and I thought it was over. It was in the middle of, it was right before summer was coming. I was going to have to wear a cast. I was going to have this operation, walk around with like a peg leg the whole time. And I just thought my summer was over. And the same friend who challenged me to go ask a girl for her number did the most amazing thing. He brought over a Sega Genesis for me, and he rented it from Hastings back in the day. And I had it for 2 weeks. And that one little win really got me through it. But the knee injury was just the first step, because eventually the surgery didn't take, and I had to have 6 surgeries. And I realized, like, I learned how to adapt and pivot through life, because it still hurts. And maybe I can't do squats as deep or as effectively or as much weight as my wife can, but I can do them, and I could just have to manipulate it. And so it taught me a lesson that even when you're hit hard, maybe you were going to come back a little bit different, but you will find a way through it. And so I still get to do the things that I love. I just have to do them a little differently. And it sucks. Heck yeah, it sucks. It really hurts still. But it doesn't hold me back. And I can't complain about it. I can't blame somebody else about it, even though it wasn't like I just wasn't standing there and boom, my knee broke, right? Like I dislocated my knee. It was done to me. But what is holding a resentment against the person who did it to me? It wasn't his fault. He didn't intentionally to do it. So like, okay, well, I accept it. Life sucks on that. But now how am I going to grow from it? And it got me into, it taught me so much. It taught me how to, I sat there for the summer, and instead of sitting there dwelling, I learned a foreign language. I learned to love Japanese.
Oh, wow.
Right? And so I took that time to grow, not physically, but at the same time I had to go to physical therapy, but it was like I also took the time to learn a different language. But then it also set me up for success. Like, oh my gosh, I've had so many kids that I was a strength coach and with different Olympic athletes that they have their injuries. And man, you talk about a mental hit sometimes, because the Olympians that I worked with, they had always said the 2 things that helped them become an Olympic athlete versus just a really good high achieving athlete was that you never get injured was one of them. Because when you do, you're going to fall back and somebody will take your place and eat you up, right? And so the other thing being that they always give 3 to 5% more than the average person. consistently time and time again. And when you do that, then you become a high achiever. And it's stupid and it's mundane, but it's the simple little action of always doing that. And so when they got hurt, is life over for them? Are their Olympic dreams over? Well, maybe not. Maybe they can then become a coach. Maybe then they can become a lawyer for them. So it's like being able to change and adapt and see things through a different perspective. It opens up doors. And that was one of the greatest things that I learned from so many of the people we interviewed, is that sometimes that major challenge, that major injury could actually be a blessing in disguise, right? And it could set you up for success down the road, and you just don't know it yet. And so don't look at it as the end of the world. Maybe it's something that can make a difference in your life or somebody else's.
So moving on to some, so I guess more lighthearted questions. Natalie asks, when did your love for Star Wars begin?
My love for Star Wars began when I got a C-3PO and R2-D2 action figure. And I call them action figure, not dolls. And I hated them because I loved Darth Vader. And I was so mad that I didn't get a Darth Vader, because the helmet and the cape and the lightsabers, just get him, right? I was so upset. And all I wanted was Darth Vader and like a legion of Imperial stormtroopers. And when I didn't get that, I was like, oh man, I'm going to get that, because it just, the emotions that brought up to me with Star Wars being born on the same year, and then that was my parents' first date, was going to Star Wars after I was born. It just meant a lot. And we had a Betamax, and I remember when it was on TV, you had to, if you missed it, then you missed it, right? And so, but eventually when it came out on Betamax, like I would watch that thing over and over and over again. And so it was when I got my first action figure toy that it really meant something to me. And that was my first love.
That's
but
awesome.
It was not for C-3PO or R2-D2. But there's nothing wrong with them. And if you like them, we can still be friends.
Well, keeping on the Star Wars trend, what Star Wars character represents your journey?
I would say definitely Anakin Skywalker. I am a dark side for life person. I'm an Imperial lover, and just his journey of finding himself. And it's funny because I don't really, you can learn just as much from a bad example as you can a good example, right? But Anakin's journey and becoming Darth Vader, you talk about someone who is driven and goal setting. I mean, he would have done anything to accomplish his goals. He gave up his son. He went through asteroid belts. Like, he didn't listen to his bosses. He just did what he needed to do to get done. And that has been my journey. Like, I just figure it out. If it's something that I really, really want to do, I know eventually I'm going to succeed at it, no matter what the cost. And so as long as the cost doesn't hurt other people, then I know I'm on the right trajectory, because I believe in myself and I'm going to achieve the goal that I want to do. And so learning not to hurt other people was the lesson that I learned from him as well, is that you can't hurt the people around you. You've got to have that confidence team, because nobody can do it alone.
Mm-hmm. Well, I should have thanked Natalie and Caden. They both asked each of those questions, and
Caden is my cousin in Las Vegas, and I love her. And she did not love Star Wars until she met her husband. And I'm very jealous that I wasn't the one who impacted her or influenced her in that way. But a big shout out to Franny on that one. Star Wars has just meant a lot to me emotionally. And it was at a time when I needed to escape. Because as I mentioned earlier, like, I got beat up and picked on all the time. And I felt like the kid in the never-ending story. Like, I would escape through books and through TV shows where I would root for the underdog, and movies and TV shows like A-Team and Airwolf were really cool. And so were the movies like The Karate Kid. And it just meant a lot to me. So did music. Music meant a lot to me as well. And nothing gets my goosebumps going more than the Imperial March. And I will say that one of the greatest moments on stage for me is when, at Star Wars Celebration in Tokyo, when I have the Imperial March playing and I run up on stage and I'm followed or preceded by a legion of stormtroopers, come on, who doesn't love that? And so that's the optimism right there. It just totally fills my amazing bucket. I love every second of it, and I appreciate Star Trek, but it's not my thing.
Well, I'm gonna go to a question from Zach. He must be a new dad, and he just asked that advice for new dads.
Oh my gosh. Well, yes, I have plenty of things. And Zach Lake, he's over in Seattle, and he is about to become a dad. And he reached out to me, and he is a great chef, and he is a mentor to me. And so if I can give him advice right now, here it is. And that would be that as a new dad, you are going to mess up. You are going to make mistakes because there's no right time to have a baby, and there's no perfect timing. Right now is the right time for you, and you could have more money and it won't matter. So you're going to mess up. And one thing that I would say is, especially as they begin to grow and you can communicate with them, is let them know that you're learning too, because you're not going to have all the answers. And if you can be authentic and honest about that conversation, they're going to appreciate that. So definitely let them know that that you're learning. Be present. Put yourself in a child's position, because and that goes from as a kid, get down on the floor and play with them, because it might reveal something that's dangerous, because you see oh, that's interesting, right? But really be present with them. Put your phone down and play with them. Be the dad that they remember going to their games. Be the dad that they remember playing Legos with, or with Star Wars guys, or watching movies, because I remember every single time that my mom was there for me. I remember the times that my dad was there for me. And so be present. Put your phone away. Get rid of that. Get on their level and make it all about them. And Zach, I know that you're going to listen to this. You are going to be an amazing dad. And everyone has the ability to be amazing dad or amazing mom or an amazing grandparent, but you have to put intent and purpose behind it. But focus on them, even when you're tired, even when you don't think that you have enough fuel left in your tank. Make it about them. And the last thing I was going to say is that before you yell and get mad and take it out, it's gonna suck. Your kids are gonna do things that are gonna suck, and it's gonna be awful. Like they're gonna take a key and scratch your car, and you're just like, that's just something out of your control. You have no control over that, but it is an experiment to them. And tell yourself that every time, like, experiment. It's just an experiment. When they want to crack the egg and get it everywhere, all over the place, it's just an experiment. When they want to take that key, it's just an experiment. So when you want to yell and you want to freak out, don't. Take a deep breath and just call it an experiment. And that will get you to that next moment.
Well, Zach has another question. And he asks, what's your advice for entrepreneurs that are branding themselves?
Oh, 100%. Be clear on what makes you different. Find your uniqueness and leverage that to the max. Show up consistently and authentically. People will read through that. People want to do business with the people that they trust and they have a real relationship with. Be real. That's that authentic self. You offer so much and nobody else can offer the exact same thing. So that's going to differentiate you. And then learn from someone ahead of you. Like, associate yourself, and I talked about this earlier, like find someone who's a couple levels ahead of you and ask them, because that might reveal a nugget that you can take and apply to your specific journey. And so I would say that definitely it's like leverage your story, because your uniqueness is what's going to make you so special, and be consistent about it, because that's your brand. And if you do those two things really, really well, your brand is going to sell itself.
Yeah. I would also say, as someone who's branded themselves in their business, is don't be afraid to spend money. like if you're talking about like getting like a logo designed, or you're talking about getting stuff for like, for your business, for your website and stuff, like don't be afraid to spend some money on getting that done well by someone that's professional designer, because that you'll be able to have something that you can use for a really long time that can be your mark. So
I totally agree with that. You got to spend money to make money sometimes.
Yes.
But then your greatest asset is you. It doesn't always cost money.
No.
It can cost your time.
Yeah.
So learn, get on YouTube, get on Google, use ChatGPT, talk to someone else, and then learn from them, because it doesn't have to cost money all the time. It can just be your time, right? And so your time is valuable too. And put the time and effort into doing those extra little things, that 3 to 5% more, and that can leverage you as well.
We have one question, and then before we wrap up, and what do you want people to feel after hearing you speak?
I want them to know that they have the ability to transform their own lives. They already know how to do it. And sometimes we just need that simple reminder that if somebody else could do it, you can do it too, and to believe in yourself. And so to create real transformation and believing in yourself, and to make real and genuine relationships with other people, because you can change your trajectory of your life, but you can change other people's lives too. And it's about giving back sometimes, reminding yourself that you are who you are today because of so many other people. So many people have impacted you and influenced you. And that simple reminder makes you want to remind them of the difference that they've made. And so I always challenge people that you should reach out to people that have made a difference in your life and let them know, because it might blow them away. They might not have any idea. And that spreads positivity and optimism throughout this world. And it means that we care. It's being kind, and it's showing empathy with other people. And so I would say that the greatest thing is that it's a simple reminder to go that 3 to 5% more in everything that we do. What is that 3 to 5% edge that you can apply in your work and in your life, both personally and professionally, every single day, to not only improve your life, but somebody else's?
Finally, for people who've stuck around this long, do you have a special offer for them if they want to buy the Sum of Four?
Yes, I do. And everybody knows that I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but I'm also a huge Karate Kid fan. And I have been honored to not only know some of the people, but have them on as guests. Like William Christopher Ford was on, Ron Thomas was on. I keep trying to ask Yuji Okamoto on here, so get on here and I want to interview you. But Cobra Kai has been a huge piece of my life, but so is Karate Kid. And so Cobra Kai is going to get you a discount on the book, and we'll send that out to you. And I would love your feedback because I know that it is something that you can always open up. And if you self-reflect enough on it, I've heard enough feedback that it does change people's lives. So let me know what you think, and offering that code of Cobra Kai. And Brennan, thank you so much. And thank you, everybody. I'm going to look into the camera now. Thank you so much for subscribing and being a part of this, and for all the great guests that have come on and left their message. Because if you can reach one person, you've done a difference. And being able to share that with so many people and influence people that's filling my reward bucket. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming along this journey. It's been fun. And the greatest gift is I'm continuing to learn. And like as a parent, I'm learning how to do it too. So thank you for going with it. And Brennan, thank you for always pushing me past my limits.
Absolutely. You as well. Thank you for keeping this podcast going. It is my longest consistent weekly podcast, and I'm always learning from it, and I'm excited to see where we're headed next. So
me too. Thanks, you guys. If this episode brings you value, or you know someone who could benefit from it, the best way to support the show is by sharing and subscribing. It's completely free and helps us reach more people. And if you have any questions, feedback, or guests you'd like me to interview, drop a comment while you're there. I'd love to hear from you. And most importantly, thank you for tuning in. And let's continue sharing optimism and positivity.